Hey guys, here we are with Real Clean Services, and you know, with the introduction of this channel coming up, I'm going to go over some of the basic stuff, the most asked questions, and it's probably well known that the most asked question in reel repair is what can I do every single time I get back from fishing that will keep this reel running smoothly, keep it clean, keep it from corroding, and basically all in all make it last a whole lot longer. There are several things that people will tell you, especially on the internet, as far as, you know, getting a degreasing solvent or getting just a water hose and spraying it all down and you know, then wipe it off later on. And I'll tell you first of all right now that as far as outside cleaning, which is what I'm going to go over in this video, there is not much that has to be done to clean the outside of a reel. And especially when you're talking about spraying water directly on the reel. First of all, you probably know, if you've seen any kind of reel, any kind of spinning reel, that once you get up underneath this spool, in fact, you can see right here, you can see through those holes down inside the spool. And let me take this spool off real quick. That is direct access right here. Direct access to the shaft, and go down that hole where the shaft's in through your pinion gear, through your main bearing and all that. You have direct access to all your other gears inside the case. Spraying water, and especially spraying a solvent directly on your reel, is not always a bad thing. But you have to be careful and do it in moderation, so that you don't make that water get onto the grease of that shaft, because eventually that water will get down into the compartment and it will start to break down that grease, and it will start to dilute the grease, and eventually it's going to start adding all the shavings from the gears and the shavings from the plastic case to that grease, and it's going to make it very noticeably not smooth. So first thing, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to zoom all the way out, and I'm just going to show you something that everybody has, and that's this stuff here. It's WD-40. You can get it at any hardware store, Walmart, most, you know, pharmacies, everywhere. WD-40 is cheap. Basically what it is, it's called water displacement, and it's formula 40. What it does is, once it cleans, and it does clean and it degreases, so you have to be careful. Once it cleans and gets rid of the salt deposits and gets rid of the grease on the outside and whatever you got on there that doesn't need to be there, it leaves somewhat of a coating on the reel, and it leaves it kind of oily feeling almost. And what that's going to do is, when you get water on here, instead of it sinking in and getting to the crevices, it's going to hit that film, that oil film, and it's going to roll off, because that's what grease does. That's how Rain-X works on your windshield. It leaves a little bit of a coating and water will not stick to it. I practice this very hardcore on internationals. Here's an old International 30. Still running great after probably 25, 30 years, and there's minimal corrosion on here except for a whole bunch of scratches. There's not much corrosion on this reel because the person has kept up with those instructions not to get water all over the reel anytime you have the control over that. So the first thing we're going to do is, what I do is I take the spool off so as not to get the WD-40 on the fishing line. Some people claim WD-40 is fish oil based, which may be true. I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. But even at that, I don't want to get this on the line, because any kind of solvent and chemical has a possibility of leaving scent in the water and leaving a scent trail. And I don't want that, especially because these reels are not mine. This one here is, but the reels that I work on are not. So I'm going to do is I'm going to put this down so the shaft is all the way down inside there as far as it'll go. And that's just so that I don't get it on that grease. And the point here is not to get the WD-40 anywhere except the outside. Now a lot of people, what they'll do is they'll just take a rag, an old shop rag or something like this one, and just spray it on there and then wipe it down. That's okay. That works too. That's even more safe. But really, as far as even coverage and being easy to do, this is the easiest way to do it. So I put the shaft all the way down so that I won't get any WD-40 on the grease, and I even hold it at an angle away from me and spray like this. And what I'm going to do is just a quick, like that, a quick spurt, and go to the other side, and another very quick, well, didn't get any on that one, very quick, easy spurt. One little spray like that, no pressure, No forcing it down into every little crevice. We're just coating the outside. You're not even going to get it all with that because you're going to wipe it down now and you're going to get all over. And you're going to wipe down the foot, the support arm, all around the drive gear, all around the inside compartment, on both sides and around the knob there, all on every side of the rotor, all on the bail arm, the entire rotor, and inside the rotor, being careful not to get the WD-40 on the shaft. And I'll show you that here. You don't want to get it on the shaft, but what you can do is you can wipe around it and get around and get all the salt and the dirt and whatever else is in there. Make sure to keep your roller free. It helps if you know what you're doing. You can take that roller apart and get to the bearing in there and oil the bearing or grease the bearing. Make sure your bail arm is functional. Just going through and doing these things to be sure that everything is working is going to extend the life of your reel because you are going to catch problems faster. This reel is 6 years old. As you can see, it is still a well-performing reel. This is a Penn Silverado. This is a 2000. It has 5 bearings in it. Great reel. They don't make them anymore, but it has standed the test of time because I've been taking care of it and I take it apart and do everything that I need to on it. There are several things we can do to make this reel last longer. And the first thing we're going to do is we're just going to open up the side cap. And to do that, this handle does not unscrew. You have to unscrew the cap on the other end. So we're just going to unscrew this cap here, and it's quite a long screw. There we go. And the handle comes off. Very simple. Everybody can do that. This next part is something that you're going to have to keep track of and be careful with if you've never done it before. And that is we're going to remove this 4 plate down at the bottom just by removing the smaller screw that holds it in. Basically, we're just taking all of the screws out that we can find that are easy to access and stuff that we won't lose. What I do is the screw that held this plate on, I'm going to put it inside here and set that off to the side. And this is going to open up 3 other screws that hold the side plate on. We're just going to take those off. Once you have everything together, it's actually quite a bit faster. Alright, very simple. These screws are all the same. Most of them are. When you're working with internationals and some conventionals, actually, I'm sorry, I was wrong. One screw is shorter. So just make sure you know where that came from. Now the side plate will come off, and then the side plate will come off. Most reels are not like that. This one just happens to be, so disregard doing that unless you absolutely have to, because that's just more work you have to do. So we're pretending like all we had to do was take out the screws and then take the side plate off. And now you'll notice we have our main gears in here that most, I would say most spinning reels are modeled after. You have your drive gear here. That's basically your main gear. On the underside of this piece, it contacts the pinion gear at the top, which is basically a cylinder with stripes across it with gear teeth. Down here at the bottom, we have a reciprocating block, which moves up and down on top of the reciprocating gear, or the transmission gear, as some people call it. And then that's pretty much it, except for a bearing that's here in the side plate and a bearing that's on the other side of the drive gear. Those are your major components. Now from here, there are several things you can do to keep this reel in good shape. All we're going to do is supplement the grease that is inside this reel currently. And to do this, I recommend people use toothpicks. And I have a toothpick here, and we just get a good blob of it on there. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to come up underneath this drive gear, and I'm just going to put that blob up on the teeth. I'm going to put a piece there, and I'm going to turn it around and do it again. Not much, just a little blob on the end of your toothpick. There's a difference between that. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm also going to get some more grease here, and I'm going to put it down and position it underneath the transmission gear, on top of the gear I should say, underneath the reciprocating block. I'm also going to put some on the same place but underneath the block. I can actually move this block up by turning the rotor. Now you can see exposed the transmission gear inside the reel. And most reels have this. I'm just going to put it on top and kind of flatten it out, just like so. Spread it around. I'm also going to put some on the teeth of that gear, like I did on the drive gear. And there's also another set of teeth underneath the drive gear that interact with the transmission gear. And so I'm going to put grease on the transmission gear's teeth, and that will transfer over to the bottom portion of the drive gear. So just putting grease on it, that's all I'm doing. It's very simple. Now we have grease on our gears, and that's going to give you some fluid action, remembering that less isn't always more. And you can see that this reel just works fine. I mean, it is a great reel. And now I can go back and put this side plate back on, and just like that. And once you make sure that everything is lined up, then you can put your screws back in. Again, making sure that everything is lined up just right, because that can really mess up your drive gear if it's not lined up. Remember that this one had one shorter screw that goes in the bottom because there's less clearance. Just remembering where your screws came from, remembering all the parts where it went to, remembering where they came from, putting them back in the same order which you took them out is vital. It is pivotal in reel repair. And just put all these back in where they went. Just like that. I'm going to tighten down this nut that I had to loosen up, unfortunately, to lift the rotor, because some side plates you cannot remove without moving the rotor up. So tighten that nut. Remember, this one is lefty-tighty, righty-loosey, as opposed to most other nuts and bolts. Just line up everything with the handle. Put our knob back in. That knob is jimmy rigged. I had to make a new one because the old one got locked up and I couldn't get it off, so I had to break it. I'm going to screw this back in. Just tighten up just to hold it. It doesn't need to be way too tight. And then that is a way to properly lubricate your reel. If you prefer, you can get your dry finger and get a little bit of grease, just a little dab, not much, and just put it on that shaft. That's not going to do much other than to keep sand and dirt and dust and hopefully rust and corrosion. Just keep that off the shaft to fill the void, basically. That can also add a certain degree of smoothness to your reel. Now, I don't like to use this technique to see how smooth a reel is, to see how long it will spin, but this reel is 4 years old. And that is a pretty impressive movement for a fishing reel, to have that kind of smoothness and to be this fluid. And if you could feel it for yourself, it is pretty smooth. But that is some basic tips for your reel to keep it maintained, to keep it smooth, to keep it operational, functional, and corrosion resistant. This is Reel Cleaning Services, or Reel Clean Service Center. My website is www.reelcleanservices.com. That's R-E-E-L for real. Reelcleanservices.com. And from there you can find out all of my information, where I'm located, how much I charge, what services I have, contact information, phone, email, URLs, all that kind of stuff. I have a Facebook page, and now, as you can see, I have a YouTube channel, and you guys can contact me through my website. Thank you very much for watching. You guys have a great day, and tight lines.